Okay, ladies and gentlemen, moving on now to our next speaker. So, this gentleman, he's the co-founder of Fiverr, the world's largest marketplace for creative services. Put your hands together for a gentleman called Shai Wininger.
Hey. Thank you. That's a lousy last name. Where's everybody? What the fuck? Can someone call someone and tell them that I'm going to talk about porn? Because I'm actually going to talk about porn. So I was thinking, it's a long day, and I kind of expected that turnover. And I think that instead of talking about Fiverr, which is boring, why don't I show you some pictures of boobs? Actually, these are pictures of boobs coming from Fiverr, because one of the first things that we had with Fiverr, like many other user-generated content sites, is the kind of the darker side of the internet. And so I've prepared a presentation, hopefully it will come up in a minute, with some very cool pictures of boobs. So, what the fuck? You know what? This clicker thing, the entire day we had this. What the fuck? Okay. Guys, at the back, my presentation. Doesn't look good. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna go for a swim. Saw like a very cool beach just by the venue here, and you guys can stay here while I'm having fun in the cold water. So, it was fun, guys. Bye.
Hey, come the fuck back. Fucking Israelis, come on. Give a big applause for the guy to come back. I hope I'm getting paid for this. Okay, now. Okay, you do understand there's a better beer than this in Croatia, right? Fuck it.
I want lousy water. It's coming all the way from Israel, and this is what they gave me to present. Whoops.
They give you some beer. Fuck it. So how was the swim?
Too short.
Too short. And we're not getting boobs.
No, we're not. Yeah.
You want to see my boobs? Or?
I can show you afterwards. Not mine, but in presentation.
Well, that's good enough. That's good enough. So, okay, I have no idea what the fuck you do. You said Fiverr. I saw that you were selling stuff for $5, right? So anyone from this room can go and sell stuff for $5.
Yeah, so Fiverr, I'm going to risk it and ask how many of you actually know Fiverr? So, great. The people who didn't raise their hand, can you please raise your hand right now? Okay, now, and the ones who didn't raise their hand also? So how many people know Fiverr? Oh, that's better. Okay, that's great. So as you see, there's most of the
everyone
people
knows Fiverr.
There.
Everyone knows Fiverr.
Yeah. So Fiverr is a marketplace for creative services. So it's not selling stuff,
for
selling talents.
For $5.
Well, the $5. It was the idea behind the $5. Most people, that's the first question I get all the time. The idea behind $5 was to kind of frame people's mind around something else and not the marketplace model. Because when we started, and that's back in the beginning of 2010, we figured out that most people will not understand what a marketplace is. And so...
Why not?
Well, the actual notion of the word marketplace. So how do you explain what's Fiverr in a short sentence without saying, the word marketplace? So we understood we needed something else to kind of catch people's attention, and the fact that we introduced the $5 were basically that was the solution for that. So most people, they say this is the site where you can get everything done for you for $5. They don't say it's a marketplace for blah 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 blah. So
okay, yeah. I'm guessing $5 cannot get you very far. Just like because again, people in Croatia do work sometimes for $5. Unfortunately, yeah. But hey.
I bet that there's quite a few developers on the iOS store that think differently. But it's a matter of it's a matter of quantity, really, and also you need to think that $5 is the magic of the $5 is actually the ability to try something before you actually pay for it a higher amount. So that when you order something, you order a logo, you don't have to risk like $2,000 on someone bet all your money on one designer just to find out later that he's not the one you wanted. So the $5 is actually just it's like an entry, like an entry point where it's very comfortable for you to try even more than one person, and then once you've kind of settled in and you find your own, your own personal taste, or you kind of gain trust with that person, then you can take it further and go up to thousands of dollars, in fact.
Have you managed to break the $5 mark? Is it like...
Sure. So most of the transactions on Fiverr are no longer $5, are way above that. Unfortunately, I cannot share the exact number, but we're way beyond
later on $5. When we get you some better beer.
Yeah.
So, okay, and when you said that people wouldn't understand what a marketplace was, right? So it was a matter of your opinion that no one would understand that.
Well, we actually we did some experimentation with messaging, and the thing is, Fiverr is not a company which started in San Francisco and has like its own ecosystem in there where everybody is very informed about what's going on, and every term like a marketplace, most of the people will know what that means. We're a global marketplace, and so many people that used Fiverr when we started didn't even know about eBay. So these are really kind of diverse users who not necessarily know what you and me know about about this space.
Wouldn't that mean, especially with at least the price at the beginning, would that mean a lower quality of users? Because again, people, especially in this part of the world, talk about like going for the B2B customers, the customers that can pay well, and then like going for someone that's targeting getting service for $5 or more. Isn't that selling yourself short? How is that a good strategy in the long term?
Right. So the thing about when you kind of an underdog, we really wanted the product to stand by itself, and if it's going to grow organically, then it will have to do that by itself without the fact that we're coming from Tel Aviv.
Did the media attack you at the beginning because you were just like $5 and everything? Like it's a cheap marketplace. That was the media's view.
Well, one of the things that really contributed to growth of Fiverr, I think, was the timing, and I should say that we didn't plan that at all. When we started was beginning of 2010, just in the midst of the economic downturn, and American media was all about either what to do if you lose your job, or if you're a small business, how can you generate more income without going into too much expense. And so Fiverr kind of caters to both worlds. And
so you caught the right message.
We really kind of caught the wave. I think the first time we saw that, it was actually in TechCrunch. It was the first media that got up, and we kind of understood it was the person who wrote the piece really kind of gave us the idea of how to present that and how to ship that, kind of wrap that message to the media. And from that point on, it really kind of rode the wave. And I think today we have thousands of media mentions each month. It's really powerful.
So basically, you rode the media wave at the right place at the right time. Like, for example, TaskRabbit and services like that.
Yeah.
It was okay. And going on, so again, at the beginning you had your opinion on what to do, how you could present, and it worked. Later on you had the TechCrunch thing where you knew how to present to the media. How as you were growing, so I'm guessing the team was growing, the product was growing, how did you end up like growing the product in such a way that now it's actually a even bigger marketplace than I'm sure that you ever imagined it to be?
Right, so that's actually a great question. I think that if I look back at the beginning of the company, and we had the first 2 years, we were pretty much, I guess, like most companies that you know, most startups that you know, it's mostly driven by the kind of the core founding team. If you have a product guy in the founders, between the founders, then he's going to be very kind of front center in terms of defining what the company is going to do and how the product is going to look. And we did that for 2 years, and suddenly, and we were very successful. We had about 500% year-over-year growth. That's massive. And at some point, I was starting to feel uncomfortable. And I couldn't explain why, because we were successful and everything was going great. And then it occurred to me that we don't control our faith.
In what sense?
Because if we're doing great and it's just the way things are, and when we ship new features to the product or take out some features and test that, we didn't feel that we actually can affect the amount of traffic that we get, or the engagement of people, and the amount of transactions that we have in the marketplace. And so even though things were going great, it wasn't, at least in our perception, it wasn't in our direct contribution, And so that's where I think we had a major change of kind of mindset in the company, where we decided to really go data-driven and to kind of regain control of what the company is doing and how we can actually affect the growth of the company, not just write it, but actually steer it, right? And so this was a major event.
So what does it mean, like, okay, so we have a point where you say we are going to be data-driven. What did you do before? What did you do after? What was the changing point?
So before, just a simple example, you could go and have a great idea about the marketplace and say, hey, you know what? If we do that, that would be really cool. That would, people would love that. And at best, you talk to a couple of sellers and they say, you know what? Fuck it, yeah, bring it over. And so you do that, but it's not based on any informed opinion, right? It's just your hunch.
How big was the team at that point when you were still making decisions?
I guess about 50 people.
So you were not small, you were really growing.
We were growing, yeah. And it's very natural. Most companies work like that, if you think about it. But they don't talk about it, but they work like that. And so after the change, and it took some time, it took us about a year and a half to really restructure the entire company. We were working in a method called squads. I don't know if anyone here knows squads. You read about it?
Avengers, right?
Yeah, well, more or less. I think it's something that Spotify and Guild, I think, started, but anyway, we really restructured the entire company to work data-driven, and it took us about a year and a half to get right, but we now know every element in the system. It's like having a heartbeat of everything that goes up and gets shipped in the product.
So what does it mean? Is it like looking at Google Analytics every day, or what? Just like installing a couple of...
Let me say this.
Cool
Google Analytics is not data. It's not data-driven. It's vanity-driven. To become data-driven, one of the first things you need to do is to really understand how to test things and how to make the right decision, how to prioritize what you're going to ship out. And I think that, if you guys want to look it up, there's a very smart guy called Marty Kagan. He's talking about a methodology called product discovery. He was one of the head of product in eBay. And that idea where you actually don't develop things to the full, it's the idea about MVPs is everybody talks about that, but how do you actually put that in a working company? How do you actually put the value into the hands of the team? And so what we started to do is really rely on experimentation. Every small thing that goes live, goes through an experimentation process. And so we really build things really, really slim. You can go to Fiverr in some cases and actually see a page that looks like a web page, but it's actually a photo. It's that ugly. But that's the idea. So you invest like a few hours in a concept, you test it out with a lot of traffic, and then you know if it's worth taking it to the next level, and so on and so forth. So that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg of that concept.
So basically taking more time about not developing the thing, but like testing it out, see if it works,
exactly.
And what actually works.
Exactly. Now, it's a risky path because you don't want to turn the company to think only based on data-driven, because then you kind of lose the innovation part. But I think it's important to have at least these two paths where some people are thinking about, really freely thinking about innovation, what's going to be next, and they don't necessarily test everything very closely. They just think about the longer, kind of the bigger picture. But most of the daily work, the change from doing things and just releasing them and making, just hoping for the best, to actually building things with our users, change the entire company. And I think that is a very important combination to have.
Getting back to the beginning, because most of these guys are like startups. They have their projects, their early beginning. So what made Fiverr work at the beginning was that you just positioned it differently, right? It was a marketplace.
It's that, and we had some boobs.
The dark side of it.
Yeah, well, I should say, I had an alter ego, because, when you start, you need to start.
Is this being
bringing, it is.
No, it's not.
It's not?
Right. Yeah.
I was told it is.
Maybe.
It's not.
Maybe.
Okay. Anyway, there's someone mirroring. Anyway. When we started, we needed to find a way to bring the first customers in, right? I mean, the first users in is always the hardest thing. And I'm not talking about friends and family. That doesn't count. And so there's this notion about hamster strategy. I'm sure you guys heard about it, where you actually go out and grab people by the ear and bring them to the service. And in some cases, you need to be a little bit cheeky about it. You need to find ways to do that are not like the standard. I'm going to throw like $10,000 on Google Ads and get some people paid. And so I had this. Do you guys remember MySpace? Is it like?
Yes,
from this generation?
We're really old.
It's
we're
like
really old, don't you worry.
old school shit, something, yeah. And so I had this really great looking guy profile, really great looking. I found a photo somewhere in Google. To this day, I don't know who this guy is, but he was very famous at our offices. And we had this user, and he actually went out and through this, this fake profile, we would go out and talk to people and kind of recommend that they come and check out Fiverr.
On MySpace.
On MySpace, right. So that's, today you'll call it growth hacking. I don't think it's growth hacking because it's not scalable.
Was it just you or other people using it?
It's me and a little bit my partner. We did that, but mostly me. It was kind of the things
How does that scale?
Oh, it doesn't. It's not the point of scaling yet. At that point, you just need to, because here's the thing. When you build a marketplace, there's a famous question that comes up every time. What do you need first, demand or supply? What do you guys think? Who thinks when you build a marketplace, what do you need first? Supply, raise of hands, or demand? Supply, demand, demand. Okay, let's go with demand. So say I know how to bring you guys. You build an amazing marketplace, and I just throw at you what we once had from Yahoo Finance. If you get a link from Yahoo Finance homepage, this is going to melt this entire country. It's just unbelievable amount of traffic. So you get this amazing traffic coming in, but there's nothing to buy. So how can you start with demand if there's nothing to buy? Right? So demand is great, but you need it a little bit further down the road when you have something to offer people. So we decided to start with supply, and that's kind of the first thing that yeah.
So you go and tell people like go there and sell stuff for $5. Or?
Yeah. So yeah. Or one of the things that we do is we find really great looking girls and tell them, why not just come over and hold the sign, for example. Yeah, hold a sign with any message that you want. Now, I'm talking
I was expecting you would go in a completely different direction, so I'm happy with.
No. I remind you, it's recorded. So, no, but
Look,
we actually we didn't
you
do
started
that.
talking about that. I'm just like worrying.
I'm just in this mood today. It's not real. We would really offer real people with a genuine opportunity to do whatever they do for free, to come and do it for on Fiverr and actually
basically
make,
very
make a
simple
living.
services that people
services.
could offer for that kind of money,
Right.
and just like start the process and everything.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's how, going back to my point about supply and demand, so we had like, I don't know, you can get 50 people like that, right? That makes sense. Like 100 people makes sense. So if you get 2 per day or 2 per hour, you can scale it. And so it's not scalable in terms of a business, but it's enough to fill the need for supply when you do bring in the demand. So it's not an empty website, it has some content in it, right? So that's basically the first step, yeah.
Do you think that's like other startups can use that in a way?
For sure. I don't see any other way. I mean, today, it depends on what you're doing, but I think that some of the startups are already, even early stage, are already buying traffic, even for, in small amounts. That wasn't around when we started. It was not focused enough for the people that we really wanted to get. But I think it's a valid attempt. I would think that getting to talk to people, to actual customers, and bringing them in, at least the first few users, you learn so much in this process. We actually, that's a good point, we actually did our own customer support when we started, up until I think at least 5-6 months, where we had thousands of users already. We did, both me and Micha, my partner, we did our own customer support. We would stay up at night and talk to people, because that's how you really learn about how people experience your product.
But can't you just hire someone and they can like tell you, oh, most of the people wanted this, and
yeah, but you don't hear the music. It's not the same thing. It's technical. And also you get to talk to people and you understand that there's so many things that are broken in the process that you need to have the right combination of skills, both understand product, understand the vision of the company, and know what's in there right now very well, to be able to make the connections between things that you read in a subtext and actually make new features out of that. So that's a very, I would recommend everyone here, if you have a company and you start something and you have users already, be the one to talk to them for a long time. And we actually continue to do that for people in the company. Would spend an hour a week, even when we're pretty big, regardless of their position. Developers and HR department would do customer support and feel the pulse of the user. It's very, very important.
Do you think that like a lot of servers don't do that, are just like lazy, just don't want to do that thing that they need to do to learn about how users think about the product? Or?
I don't know. I think every company is different, and I don't think we have the truth to anything. It worked for us, but I guess there's other ways to do that as well, which would be good.
What would be your, like, coming to the end of this talk, like knowing what you've done with Fiverr, what would be your recommendations for founders, like in the beginning stages of the company?
Choose the right partner.
Okay.
That would be my first and by far the most important
Define
thing.
right partner.
You need to share, you need to make sure that you spend a lot of time with that person. You need to make sure that you share a set of values that will last for a long time.
Okay.
In many cases, when you start a company and you even think about the product or the people involved, you have these black box, I call it black boxing. I have something bothers me, but I'm going to black box that right now. I'm going to put it aside and not think about that because I need to be optimistic, right? That is very dangerous. And doing that with things that you feel about your partner or people that you hire is not a good thing. So you need to make sure that you really are aligned in the way that you think, and you at least once, and I don't know if that's feasible, but you should try to at least once be in a difficult situation with that person to see how he behaves.
Punch them in the mouth and like...
I don't know. Go drink, get wasted.
Okay, so you get in difficult situations when you drink a bit.
Me?
Or, yeah.
Might be. Yeah, it could be.
Okay, so now for the party later on, you can test this with the guy. And the second tip?
Second tip, make sure you go drinking with your investors.
Why?
Because
So is that an investor or someone else?
Investor is, in my opinion at least, is somewhere between the co-founder, and your partner, where these are people that you're going to need to spend a lot of time with, but most importantly, it's not the time, it's the lack of distance. You want to sit with someone and feel totally free to share everything with that person and really get their help or opinion. And if you're afraid to do that, because these are like heavyweight bankers or very famous people that you and them are not aligned, you're very small, early stage, first time entrepreneur, and this is like Andreessen, right? Mark Andreessen. It's not gonna be a simple thing to tell bad news, right? And even though, it could be the best guy in the world, you need to have that kind of a balance between those things. And so when we started, we made sure that there's always at least a close thing between us, and we actually, we spend a lot of time together. We're pretty much friends with all our investors, so we hang out with it regardless of the company. And I think that is a good example of how you can choose your investors. Go drinking with them, get wasted, and make sure that they're open to these kind of things.
Okay, so for summary, fake growth at the beginning to build a base of users, get drunk with your partner, and get drunk with your investor.
Exactly.
Okay, I think
like
we can agree, right?
Makes sense?
Cool.
Nice.
Please, an applause. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, man.
So he's drunk his beer. I'm lightweight, so Peter, can you send the next guy, please?